¿Qué ondas, primos?
Primas
y primes.
Welcome to
My Primos.
My Primos
Prima
Podcast. Welcome to the My Primos Podcast.
My name is Freddie.
My name's Kevin Garcia.
My name is Eliamaria Madrid.
My name is Jonavina.
This is Chikume, whenever I can make it.
My Primos Podcast discusses all things fandom and pop culture,
From comic books,
Movies?
To whatever obsession we have this week.
but with a Latine
Malatine.
perspective. Remember, we're all primos.
We're all primes.
Primas.
Primos.
No matter what part of the world we're from.
¿Qué onda, primos, primas, y primes? And welcome to another episode of My Primos Podcast. It's good to be back. Listen.
It's good to be here.
It's good to be here. Another one.
You know, actually, it's good to hear you. I was with a guest primo, I guess, Mickey. He was really helpful last episode, so that was really cool. But we have a host here. Thank you very much.
We do.
Bringing us into the show, Eliamaria.
Yo, what's up? My name is Eliamaria. I'm back. I'm here, Spice Illustrations, but I can't host alone. I've got special co-host Kevin Garcia. Say hi, Kevin.
Hi, Kevin.
There we go. I changed it up a little. Don't tell Freddie. He's going to find out.
Well, I jumped in, so that's what happens. Then again, tell Freddie I jumped in. He'll believe it.
Yeah.
Of course, Freddie, our fearless leader, will probably be back either next episode or the one after because he is the one that keeps us all together. He is the glue in our sandwich. Wait, that's not right.
Glue in our sandwich. You don't put glue in your sandwich?
I mean, you could.
You could. Don't. But welcome back, y'all. We have a really fun episode planned for y'all. Some kind of cool science, some cool engineering, some cool visuals.
Some
just
cool movie
magic.
stuff.
Yes, the stuff that you're like, whoa! That's what we've got today.
The stuff that I would actually, before there was YouTube and stuff, and I was like, back in the days before the internet, I would go out and seek out all of the movie magic specials that would come out.
Yes,
and I would be like, I need to see these things.
They don't make them as often anymore, and I live for that. I love seeing how. I love seeing the how. But how? We're going to find out somehow today, maybe. What do you think, Kevin?
I think we are, but we need to talk to people that know the biz.
Who could we talk to?
And on that note, we have some guests.
Hey!
Joining us for the first time on My Primos Podcast are some people that were cohorts of mine, I guess, at the Comicpalooza University over at Houston during Comicpalooza, the Comic-Con there.
Yeah.
Comicpalooza University was kind of like a mixture of like professionals, academics, and comic pros getting together to talk about what goes in behind the scenes for pop culture, and especially when it comes to inclusion and making sure everybody gets represented. Joining us, Mark Nazal. Say hello, Mark.
Hey guys, how's it going? Mark, should I make an introduction? How's it going?
Yeah, I was going to say, Mark, you've done a whole bunch of stuff. You want to talk about a couple of things? And I bet you anything, I'm going to mention a couple of things that you don't mention.
For sure. So,
because when I talked to you last time, you left out the big stuff. Like, come on.
Well, sometimes I feel like when you go into certain spaces, you talk about specificity, and sometimes people don't want to hear about the other stuff. But here, let me do a little general introduction.
Yeah.
So, hey guys, my name is Mark. I guess I could start with, by trade, I am a visual effects supervisor and executive producer. On the independent side, I'm a filmmaker. Also on the independent side, I also run my own independent comic book imprint. So I guess you could call us, or you could call me, mixed media in so many ways. Had an opportunity to work on some of the biggest franchises on TV. Gotham, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., Westworld, Person of Interest, Runaways,
Fallout.
So I feel like after a while it becomes recitation, but then again, it's like when you get to Kino's experience level, it's double mine. So Kino, can you tell them a little bit about it?
Brings us to our other guest, Kino Scialbba. Again, I met you for the first time. Did I say your name correctly, Scialbba?
Yeah, Scialbba. That's pretty good.
Right. I met you for the first time at the most recent Comicpalooza. Kino, Mark was saying earlier that you've got kind of a longer resume than he has. What are some of the things? Well, first off, what do you do? Would you also be visual effects supervisor? Would that be the right way to put it?
No, I'm a art director, concept designer. So I my job is to come up with ideas from beginning to the end and then see it through production from beginning to the end. So,
and what kind of shows and movies have you worked on?
Oh, I worked on
everything.
Everything from Mummy to Star Trek to Avengers, Captain America, Avatar, Westworld, Game of Thrones, Walking Dead,
X-Men.
Halo.
Amazing.
Even
Basically,
game.
if it's a franchise, you've or not a franchise. If it's anything speculative fiction, you've worked on it.
Yeah, I get to
I
get to
looking at
play
your
and
IMDb, it
design.
says huh?
I get to play and design, so it doesn't matter what it is, you know.
That's awesome. Oh, that's so cool.
Well, you mentioned The Mummy. I looked up on IMDb. It said you did like matte paintings for the one starring Brendan Fraser, the one that as everybody's always talking about. They can't wait for a new one from that. How did? Well, let me start with Kino and come back to Mark, I guess. How did you get started in the business?
Well, I went to college for 8 years on and off. I went to industrial design. I was going to go for industrial design, major in transportation with a master's degree in space analysis. Basically, that means that I could design anything from any type of like satellite to rocket or whatever. But then I realized, I'm only going to be maybe working on a small piece for maybe NASA for 10 years, or I can go the route of Sid Mead, which was when I watched Blade Runner and I saw the designs of Blade Runner and Tron and everything. And I was like, okay, who's doing this stuff? And then I was realized, you know what? I'd rather design 3-4 spaceships that doesn't really fly for the movie industry. So then I got into that. But I was always into comic books. So my first year of school, I went to Joe Kubert's School of Comic Book and Animation. And then after that, I just decided I'm going to go into industrial design. And I went to industrial design and got into all that. And then when I came in the movie industry, in the TV industry, I started off as a storyboard artist because comic books are storyboards. And then from storyboards to concepts, and then concepts to matte paintings, and matte paintings to art direction, and art direction to overall everything.
What I'm hearing is next time I need to build an intercontinental missile, you're the one to help me out.
Yeah, or a robot that can save the world.
Fair enough. And Mark, how did you get started?
Well, before I go into that, I did want to share something. So Kino finally made me watch Blade Runner. And I did have a story. And one of the reasons he made me watch it was because I had a story about an encounter with this lovely woman who you guys probably know from the original. I was at a kid's birthday party in Hollywood. And, in Hollywood, you never know who you meet in Hollywood. And there was this woman that came to me and I was like, yeah, I work in visual effects. And she goes like, have you seen the latest Blade Runner? And I go like, yeah. And then she just goes like, my name is Joanna Cassidy. And I go, excuse me? And I was like, I don't know who you are. And Kino says, that is not a statement you say to Joanna Cassidy. And she
never happened, never again.
Twice. And I was like, okay, like, who are you? So if Joanna, if you're ever listening to this, I'm so sorry. Now what?
Oh my God.
Mark, if to make you feel better, the other side of that can always work. I think I mentioned before, I have a giant banner with my face on it, my name on it. The very first time I put it up at a convention, this guy walks up to my table, stares at me, stares at the banner, stares at me, stares at the banner, and goes, I'm sorry, I don't know who you are. And I was like, I'd be surprised if you did. So I was like, it's okay.
That is funny. But to answer your question, probably in very similar ways, but a different timeline. I think really how I got started in the industry was when I was in 8th grade, somebody gave me a cracked copy of Adobe Suite. And
I think that's how a lot of us started.
Yeah, I think I ended up like teaching myself like some of the skills by replicating some of the visuals from, funny enough, the projects that Kino actually got to legitimately work on. Like, in my high school living room, we were doing Mystique, Cyclops, Smallville shots, Charmed shots. But, I grew up in the United Arab Emirates in the Middle East before moving to Australia, before moving to here. And the one thing that I didn't realize was that it was possible to come to or to work in the film industry. In fact, it was a good friend's mom that said, you're going to work in TV. And I was like, how the hell is that going to happen? But flash forward to a few years, I did start seeing the first fragments of that in Australia, but it didn't materialize there. And then I moved to Orange County, then eventually LA. Just to kind of like consolidate the story, I did end up in a school that did train us to do that. And so I learned exactly what the craft was. However, I think I was never satisfied in doing just one part of the process. So I started out as a stereoscopic compositor, basically doing the 3D conversion for things like The Little Mermaid 3D, and then also Man of Steel was my first feature. And then after that, I moved into TV, and on TV, I started on a show called Person of Interest, followed by Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. In fact, I argue that the reason I got hired was because I replicated a shot or a promo they did from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. that I didn't know was replicating the stuff that they did. So
Nice.
I started out as a visual effects generalist, and then I became a lead. My first lead show was also a comic book show, Lucifer. And then I took over a department for the department that Kino was actually a part of. And then I became the head of that department, and then I switched to being a director of digital content, which means like a lot of the marketing and PR for all that department. And then I moved to executive producing, and then now I kind of just do everything when a project requires.
Eliamaria, between these two guys, how many of their shows and movies have you watched?
A lot. Like it's
know.
actually so crazy because it's like, oh my God, y'all are making the magic happen in everything I watch, and that's blowing my mind right now. That's really cool. I love hearing stories from just the creative perspective and journey, and seeing that like there's so many different like parts of the creative industry that you did to like get to the place you are. I think that's so cool.
Well, I think the industry is also constantly evolving. I would argue that the things that we do now, in the give or take the next few years, will evolve into a different form as well. So you always have to be constantly changing with it.
Well, let me ask, Kino, you started with matte paintings, which was like the standard for movies for many, many years. Now, most of that's digital backgrounds. I don't think anybody uses matte paintings anymore.
Well, it's considered matte paintings. Digital backgrounds is considered matte paintings.
Well,
matte paintings cover a whole thing to where you can do is, you start off maybe Photoshop or 3D type of program, put it in a bunch of layers and composite it. That's considered all matte painting now.
So Kevin, just to recap, I don't think Kino started in the traditional matte painting where he did on glass. Kino, I don't think you're that old.
That's what I'm asking.
No.
Okay, so you were
all right. The mummy and stuff, that was first time Photoshop was really being used that way.
Fair enough. Okay.
So when we started matte painting, everybody was doing it old school before, and then Photoshop happened, and then all of a sudden we were like, okay, we could break everything down in layers and stuff. And then I was into concepts, then I got into matte painting because my concepts were starting to look more real every day. And they were going, okay, let's see if you can make the background here. And I was like, oh, I can make this background. And like, okay, you're the new matte painter. Boom.
You know what? Hearing you say that, it's kind of reminding me of stories I've heard about the Jurassic Park, the first one, and also Mars Attacks. I think when both of them were going to be doing stop motion, and they were like, well, let's just do some of the stuff in computer. And like, oh, this looks good in computer. Let's just run with that. Right. So, yeah. Well, but I did want to ask though, Kino, since you started, have you had to adjust your tools? How has it come adjusting with the I guess every single year is going to be brand new as far as movies goes. I feel like there's going to be something new every year.
I mean, part of my success was that I evolved with time. So a lot of my friends and a lot of artists, they tend to want to just stay with what they know, and anything new, they don't want to branch out, because sometimes technology for concept people and stuff like that is kind of like, okay, I'm going to spend all this time working and learning this program and I'm not creating. But I didn't have that kind of mentality, because I realized that the world's ever changing and all programs and pipelines are forever changing. So I was always a tech head anyway. And, I was always into William Gibson, all that kind of stuff. So I was like, okay, I'm going to have one of the coolest computers when all the world goes out, So I really got into technology. So me learning software opened the ability for me to continue on in the industry. And I just kept on like finding different ways. I didn't stick to one software. I was like, okay, what can we do with this? Well, can we do that? Because I was always somebody that liked to, problem solve and bring all types of different things together. And that's kind of like what I still do.
This conversation kind of makes me want to ask about the elephant in the room, which is technology and where it's
You're talking about AI. So, you know what? It's funny. We always have these conversations because, as you heard, like, I'm not sure if you have, most likely you have, Amazon just had AI on the lot where Garrett Edwards talked about the technology. And I think the answer is always, the tools are always changing, but I think what doesn't change is human ingenuity. So perhaps the one thing to ask people is it still worth learning the skills? And the answer is yes, because clearly when you utilize those tools, it doesn't give you exact one-to-one what you need, but if you have the ability to utilize both manual and automated processes, you're able to create better efficiencies and actually be able to not just dictate, but really articulate what you need to accomplish with the tool sets. My response to that is whether we like it or not, the tools are here. They're becoming more integrated in almost every level of software that is considered a legacy software. So would you prefer to be the slow one in the room, or would you prefer to see how you could compete? Because it's no different than when things went digital, right? Maybe perhaps the difference is the ease is a little bit more straightforward, and maybe there's still a question on the ethical considerations for sourcing. I think those are all things that still need to be ironed out. It's certainly not perfect, but the answer is cautious optimization and cautious utilization.
You know, I hear people say it's no different, but there is Photoshop was called that because it was essentially what people used to do with pasting up images. They would cut and paste up images. So you still had to have a person going in and finding things, whether they had permission to use them or not. They were going through and finding things.
I had to give talks about Photoshop back in the early 90s because I was doing fine art, and I did fine art with Photoshop, and people were wondering how I did it. So I had to explain when Photoshop first came out, people were thinking, you're just pushing a button and the fine art's coming out. I'm like, no, I'm actually going out, art directing photography, doing a shoot, painting on, printing it out, painting on top of it in digital form and everything, and doing shadows and everything. And this was before Photoshop was being used to do pretty much artwork and everything. So I was getting so much like backlash because of that. And then, 4 years later, it's the number one thing to start doing artwork.
Yeah, I was floored the first time I saw Fiona Staples putting together a page for Saga. I was like, wow. I at that time, I couldn't even imagine a whole comic book being put together digitally. It was fairly new to me at that concept. So I was blown away. But the concern, of course, is that a producer going in and saying, I want Arnold Schwarzenegger jumping in and having an explosion behind him, just typing that in and letting the computer do all the work. Is that a concern that might cut out the artist?
I don't believe that's his though. That basically is the computer's. So the thing is, if the computer had a name and the computer's name was Tim, that's basically somebody going up to Tim and going, hey man, can you do something like this? And Tim goes, this is my version of it. And that's Tim's artwork. So what people are not really getting at is that prompting to me is cool and everything. But when you prompt, you're not creating, the computer's actually creating. The only thing that's different now is that computers don't have their own id, and computers aren't singular life forms. So we're not giving them credit for what it is. You know what I'm saying? We're just saying that, we're part of the computer's part of us, but it's separate from us. So it's kind of a weird, awkward way of humanity seeing the machine,
But Kevin, I think, sorry, to kind of like recap, right, I think the ethical considerations definitely need to be examined. I mean, you're right. It's not a one-to-one translation. It is something else entirely. And, for really, we don't know how far it will go and how much quicker it'll evolve. And so I think it kind of comes down to what is going to become allowed and what governments will allow it. Because in truth, right, what could be allowable in the UK or in China might not be acceptable here. So
the EU has got much stricter regulations when it comes to
exactly.
AI.
Whereas Asia does not. Asia's regulations are so much looser.
Well, they're changing now. Like China's starting to change right now, their regulations. Because
they're stronger than the US.
Yep.
Well, you know what? All this aside, technical stuff.
AI stuff. Yeah, the elephant.
Part of the issue, though, is artists coming together and working together as a collective, which I understand, Mark, you guys are working on something like that right now?
Correct. So when you work in the field of work that we do, right, like when you watch something like Avengers, as an example, you have thousands and thousands of people, because our industry, like our craft, is very layered and very complex in a way that it requires different people with different sets of skills. So once upon a time, Kino and I worked at one studio, and that was by happenstance. This time around, we're choosing to work together with a collection of excellent studios from all over the world that have different specializations, that have worked on things like Black Mirror, Avatar: The Last Airbender, what else, like a lot of music videos, considering that is also very relevant. It really is different studios with different specialties able to create more than one studio can, or able to collaborate to create or to work on things that more than one studio can accommodate.
I think what Kino was saying earlier was that like people need to get the experts to come in and give them their take on stuff, and with a collective like that, company can come and get access to those experts, I guess, right?
Yeah,
100%.
With the experts guiding them and overseeing things, so we can make sure that all the companies and everything that works together are consistent in their delivery of production. Yeah.
So, going specifically into nerd talk, we have people that we have companies that are experts in CG, experts in gaming cinematics. We have a creature shop, we have a digital makeup shop, and we have an integration studio that is what do you call that? That specializes in seamless integration of shots and also stitch shots like Birdman. So for reference, our group is called Surreal Arts Group. That's surrealartsgroup.com if people are curious as to what types of work the company has done in their individual reels. And it also, you just get to see some really cool visuals when you check out the website.
You mentioned Birdman, which is always one of those really big like visual movies. I'm kind of jumping back and forth here, but like, Mark, what is the like if you could pick like one or two things that you like, my mark, pun not intended. I am in that. I was gonna say I put my mark on that, but that's
oh my god, there's so many. All right,
So,
let's
like-
start. But go ahead, finish your
Go ahead.
question.
No, I was just gonna ask it. Go ahead. Start with what?
All right, so mark on that, right? Like,
Wait, what was the question?
Well, the question was like, what's if of the things you've done in the past, what is something that was either really exciting or interesting, or you can't believe it happened, or you're just so proud of it? Any of those things?
I don't know if it's can't believe it happened, because I think once you work in as many
Yeah,
projects
well-
as we have, everything seems like it's work that you accomplish. It's more of like, okay, I think I like the framing of the earlier part of the question, like where do you felt like you made your mark, and give us specific examples. So I love that you mentioned Birdman. Like, do you guys remember a show called Pitch on Fox?
I have not seen that one.
So that's all right. It's not a comic book show, but for that show in particular, we
yes,
replicated. You remember, like, we replicated the Birdman look by stitching, I would say, 3 to 5 different shots and made it seem like it was one shot. So that's something, and that's something more general. But on the comic book side of shows, like let's say Gotham as an example, I'd say my first major sequence on Gotham was working out with the episode 10 season finale. I think I really had an opportunity to help define the look of Arkham Asylum for that sequence. I kind of late into the day shots, but in the night shots, I started taking over it in season 2. So got to work on helping build that asset as you see it on the show. But for season 2, no, it's not season 2. For season 3, season 3 was very gory in particular. So if you saw a lot of gore, likely my team worked on it. But I think my biggest contribution for season 3 was when we built the digital makeup look. Remember when he got infected by the virus? I think it was somewhat the Bane virus or the Crazed virus. I forget what they call it now. But creating the look and plus helping artists implement that with a tech that was new at the time. The tech is not new anymore, but at the time when we did that sequence, the tool was still in beta. So kind of like being the forefront of being able to do that for a show that delivers every 2 weeks was both exciting and terrifying at the same time.
I have stuff I want to ask you about, but first, Kino, how about you?
I would say it was really cool working on. I worked on Guardians of the Galaxy 3. Worked on the suits, the main suits, and everything, and I worked on the space suits and worked on a bunch of other stuff. But what was cool about that job was that I had to go in to Marvel, and they had all the suits of the first movie and the second movie all in one room with all the props. And they said, study every single suit here and study every single prop. And they're like, okay, study it. And I was all like, okay, I know what I'm going to put together and everything. And they're like, okay, you studied everything. Don't use anything that you just studied. And I was like, what? And I was like, oh, no. So they were like, okay, we want something kind of like a air flight suit, space suit. So they gave me all these different other things. And that job was so fun because I got to go there and I would go home and do our work, but I also got to go there and be surrounded by all the suits and look at them and be able to move things around, and just like it was insane. And then I just recently worked on a Spider-Man Noir, which was really cool. I helped come up with the design of Sandman, Electro, how he's using his powers, how Electro looks, and then the spider webs and stuff like that. But one of my early ones that I probably was very excited to work on is I got to work on the first X-Men and help design with Cerebro and Xavier when they're looking around for different mutants and everything. So that was really cool, but there was so much other stuff. I mean, I get excited over almost anything I work on anyway. So.
Well, Kevin, I'll actually share something on the Cerebro part. On one of our latest comic books that comes out at STCC, hopefully there are no delays, fingers crossed, I was actually referencing that sequence, but was telling it to another artist who was a common colleague of ours when I could have just called Kino. See, like, when you've worked in this industry for so long, like, you don't know who of your friends worked on what. Like, had I known Kino designed that, I would have literally just been like, hey, Kino, I'm trying to do this sequence that kind of reminds me of the sequence that you designed. Instead, I gave it to somebody else who never worked on it because I didn't know.
You know, it's funny. I hear all these things, so I'm a comic book historian. People come to me like, oh, what is this reference? What is the reference? And that's cool. But you guys have the stuff that's actually there on the screen. I know we were at Comic Palooza and somebody walked by in a Star-Lord costume, and I think, you were like, I made that, and Star-Lord came over to get his picture with you. So that was pretty cool. Talking on Marvel stuff, Mark, I think you told me previously that you did some of the early Deathlock stuff on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. And I think one of the things I'd asked you was, whenever you're designing something, is it, I guess I'm asking right now, is it a combination of like, here's what we want versus here's what our budget is? Or do you just kind of like throw everything out there and let them figure it out?
So I think what's interesting during that time, and I say during that time is because it was still on broadcast television, right? It wasn't necessarily streaming. So what was interesting, both fun and stressful about broadcast television is it aired when it's supposed to air. So to answer your question, I don't think the budget was really as much in consideration. I'm sure it was, but this was also when I was in my second year into the industry and my first year into TV. So I would actually almost say that I was very honored that I got that opportunity because that was terrifying. That was the first time you saw the Deathlock HUD on TV. I remember, where I was at the time in terms of confidence level of being able to pull something off like that. And I was deathly nervous, so to speak. But I think what's great about it is if there's an air date, you have to get whatever you get to by that air date. So that oftentimes is the definition of the constraint of what you have. But to answer your question, Kevin, it really was a collaboration between myself and, you know what, it's interesting because I would typically have said that myself and the graphics lead, but in this case, he was busy on something else. So it really was myself and the visual effects supervisor of the show. And again, during that time, during that place in my career, that was terrifying, but it was also extremely gratifying.
I mean, that's the ground floor of the MCU. So
we didn't think about it during that time.
Yeah, and I always wonder like how much like leniency I guess there is crazy from each of y'all that y'all have. It's like, is there a certain like skeleton that you have to stick to, or is it like, oh, can we
for
experiment with a few
TV
extra things?
Yeah, for TV and movie it's completely different. TV, you have access to like, maybe you can just change things because they know that budgetary stuff and replication of what suits are and stuff like that, they have a lot more that they can't, they can't really do it with that budget. But like in movies, like when I'm designing suits and stuff, I mean, for example, the main suit, I've designed maybe 40 different suits.
Wow.
And then they take those 40 different suits all throughout the process, break it apart, and then try to combine all that together. And by the time you come up with the last design, it's pretty much all those 40 different suits put together. Or it can end up being suit number 2, which happens.
Yeah.
That is very true. But I think you get Kino's point, Kevin. Time is always a factor. So on TV, it almost has to be like a very direct goal because you don't have as much time to ideate. And oftentimes, like, Kino, would you say how long would a concept design process be for a film?
Oh, I mean, like, okay, for the suits, I had only 2 to 3, 4 weeks, but still on TV, that goes down to 4 days, 2 days, 3 days.
Yeah.
Very much so.
That goes down. Okay, you got 3 days to come up with the concept. What?
Because like on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., right, that was a bi-weekly show. Or no, that was a weekly show. So oftentimes we were lucky if we got an episode 2 to 3 weeks in advance, but oftentimes it's about a week.
I was doing concepts like a week before comp had them.
Yes.
And I was like, okay.
Yeah, some of the most terrifying ones were a producer is right behind you because it has to be at the studio by 2 because it airs at 6. That was terrible.
That's, I can't even imagine.
Yeah.
That's why everybody's shaking like a little chihuahua in the high wind.
I got to tell you though, as a writer, when I'm right up on that deadline, like I need it by this afternoon, suddenly I'm going to write really well.
Yeah.
Well, you mentioned earlier that was back in the days of broadcast, and then you said TV versus film is very different. Streaming, is that somewhere in the middle? I want to specifically, Kino, you mentioned Spider-Man Noir.
Streaming is
Noir?
TV.
This is true, but like, is the time? Well, let me ask you this much: what went into making the Spider-Man stuff from your point of view? What are the things you did with Spider-Man Noir?
Like the look of Sandman. So they wanted something completely different than the previous Sandmans of the movies and stuff like that, and a lot of those designs and looks had a copyright issue associated with them too. So they were looking to make sure that nothing looked like that. So same with the Electro powers and stuff like that, and Spider-Man webs and everything. So we had to go, since it was noir, we had to go through a dark and more gritty and more grounded design, I would say. So
was there an effort of trying to make sure it would look good in black and white first?
When I got to design it, I had to do 2 versions. I had to do a version of black and white. So I had to make sure it looked good in black and white. And sometimes, looks good in black and white doesn't look good in color too. So I was constantly like making the images, make sure that whatever I can do, I could just put a black and white filter over it and it'll look the way I want it in both worlds, which that part was really hard to do because I couldn't give them a color version that was really cool and a black and white version that was really cool. They wanted something that was cool either way, that they could just switch black and white. And of course, they're going to do their little effects on. But that part was really, really, pretty hard to do.
But Kevin, I do have something to add to that question. So, Eliamaria, did you watch Lucifer?
Yes.
So, if you recall, between season 3 and season 4, Lucifer went from airing on Fox to streaming on Netflix. So when it was airing on Fox, we really didn't have time to work on a lot of the ideation of a lot of the designs. Whereas when it went to Netflix, all of a sudden we had 6 months to prepare for an episode because there wasn't an air date. Like there was an internal deadline, but there wasn't necessarily an air date or even a release date. I'm sure there was, but we didn't know about it. So it kind of like gave you a lot more time to create concept work, but also refine the visual effects process. Because if you guys recall, in season 3, the most complex version of the devil face was literally him saying, what did he say? Hello, detective, or something along that. He said one line, or no, he said detective. All he said was one line, and that was it. Whereas in season 4 and season 5, he now had the full articulate devil body, and that was concepted. That was motion captured, that was designed, that
we had to do the feather wings and stuff. Yeah. Remember those?
Exactly. So you do get, once you have more time, once it jumps from broadcast to streaming, you do have a little bit more time.
Yeah, it just depends on if they're doing all the episodes in one or they're breaking it apart too.
Yeah.
Because sometimes they try to out and they go, okay, we only have 2-3 episodes and we got to make sure the pilot's out. It's like, okay. It's like... And then afterwards, if it gets greenlit to it further, then it becomes easier.
I am one of those people that has still not watched Project Hail Mary, but I bring in that up. Well, okay, wow, okay. There's 2 of us.
I sleep through it because I went pretty late and I had some alcohol.
I need to see it. Anyway, the reason I bring it up, is because there was this discourse about it before it came out, where I think the director had said that they had no, what did he say? He said we didn't have a lot of CGI, or so. I don't remember the exact phrasing he used. And people on Twitter and stuff went nuts saying, "Oh, well, see, this is a movie that is all real. There's no, fake computer stuff."
I know how exactly it was made.
He had to walk it back later. He's like, no, I didn't mean that. Yeah. You want to? The reason I brought that up is this. Do you feel like in the fandom discussions of like practical versus VFX, is that distinction as strong as the fans might try to make it sound, or
fans don't understand what really is happening? They don't understand that really for everything to be created is a mixture of almost everything. It's like you can't do one thing alone. It doesn't really work. It doesn't look good. There's many other things. You do something completely CG, your flame will never look the same. Your light won't look the same. Like, remember when we watched Blade Runner, the textures on objects versus CG textures things? That kind of stuff doesn't look. So it's a combination of everything. And you have these people that just become like zealots. It's like, I only want, only this way and this way. It's like, no, it's pretty much all the ways put together, And that's the same with AI is going to happen. It's like, it's all.
It's going to confuse people even more.
Yeah.
So, Kevin, here's a more layered answer to that. And I think one of my more layered answers is that oftentimes it's great PR to say that there's no CG. And I don't know why. Yeah. But the truth of the matter is almost everything that you see on TV, especially if it's even decently budgeted, has a layer of digital effects, whether it's visible or not visible. And I mean, even when you think about things like a Christopher Nolan project, when you think Oppenheimer, right? Fine, he didn't opt for a CG explosion and they filmed those. But how they layered those together, unless they're doing some chemical process that I don't know, is still digital.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
They did additional Houdini stuff on top of things.
Yeah.
And the same with Hail Mary. In Hail Mary, they had the cube thing moving around with 2.6, which was real. And then everything inside the reflections was CG after the base of 3D built on it. So it's like, it's a combination of almost everything,
I think back to Black Swan with Natalie Portman years ago. When they were trying to get it promoted for the Oscars, they released a reel of like behind the scenes on YouTube. And I remember because the obvious stuff like, the feathers in the back and those kind of things going on, but floorboards, curtains, things that I think a lot of people that are like practical versus CGI, they're not realizing that all of those little details are adjusted in post, essentially.
Yeah.
Usually when they shoot people and stuff, you're lucky that you have a space that is maybe 10 feet wide that's real objects around you. You'll be grateful if you have that. Usually you only have something like that, and then everything else, they have to design and extend the set digitally.
Yeah, like I was looking through your reel, Mark, and like just being able to see the layers from just one visual effect alone, that's one element to it. When you think about all the different layers that go into just one scene, because there's lighting, there's sound, there's color grading, like it's not just, we filmed this, there we go. There's many different elements.
I agree. And when you break down visual effects as well, what visual effects really is it's an entire industry that is a replication of turning what was done physically into digital, whether that's puppetry, whether that's special effects, explosions or water or whatnot, or lighting, cinematography, all of those are just converted into the digital space. That's what visual effects is. Many different techniques and disciplines just converted into the digital space.
I'll pause for a quick second. Eliamaria mentioned your sizzle reel. Actually, I'm going to do this for the editor to notice. Pausing. Sorry, it was a few seconds ago. Anyway, our editor, by the way, is amazing. Yeah, he's ever since he came on, he's been adding a whole bunch of cool stuff, sometimes sound effects and little digital things. It's great. Anyway, she mentioned your sizzle reel, and I was going to ask you, I meant to ask before we started recording. Are there is there a behind the scenes clip or clips that we could use like in the YouTube version of this, and then kind of go back to talking about it?
So what I could do is I could send you specific things that have been released on YouTube that I did not specifically post.
Fair enough.
So,
Ideally, though, it'd be a file so the editor could put it in there. If not, it's
Totally.
okay.
I'll give you a file. I'll give you a file of things that you're allowed to kind of like mix in.
That's what
Obviously,
I'm getting at.
he knows they're published on his website. Reels people are a little bit finicky, but
well, I know what the reels are more for you to like a resume thing.
Correct.
I think that's why I was saying is there something we could use?
oh, yeah, and I could certainly send you some clips to kind of like in between, and those are like not public domain, but
Yeah,
they've been
in the public. They're in the public. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, if you can get that like ideally by this weekend or by Friday.
For
all right,
sure.
So what I'm gonna do when we come back is then kind of like jump towards it and say, hey, we're gonna look at this. And then afterwards, I was thinking about I went to the ATX TV Fest recently, which is the kind of behind the scenes TV stuff. And I what I mentioned to you guys what I saw, and then I'd love to get your feedback on it so we could talk about it if that's okay. All right. Or is there anything else that we want to make sure we cover before I jump to that?
No, I think nothing really. I mean, we can keep on ranting about the same thing over and over again.
I mean, it's fun.
I was just gonna say my upcoming comic.
Yes.
Let's do that. Let's do that first. So, because Mark, I also want to mention your company too. So let's get to that
Right.
real quick. So let's jump back in. I'm gonna mention that, and then we'll go to let's do your comics first. All right. So, ready? Well, I mean, Eliamaria saw your stuff, and you mentioned earlier, Mark, that you also have a comic book company. I know that you talked about when I met you at Comic Palooza University, we talked about Filipino representation in a lot of things, and I know that you'd also been promoting other creators as well. What have you done with your company, with your comics, Mark?
Yeah, for sure. I think really more in the beginning, it was more about representation, but I think as we've morphed, it became a collective as well of different creators just coming together because we have chemistry, we've worked together, we like similar material. So I like one of the things that we actually tailored, or one of the things that we discovered in terms of how we promote ourselves is like, hi, I'm this, but in my comic book spaces, I tend to lean more, I would say, mythology, kind of like taking an American Gods feel. So my comic series, Carmina, is kind of like about this young woman who finds out that her mother is a goddess from mythologies of a different universe, right? From Asian mythology, Philippine mythology. Whereas Kino's, I think, if you want to talk about Kino.
Mine is called Mod Squad. Mine is basically it's a in the eyes of a captain that he's in charge of a ragtag team during a World War, and it's a love story basically. And what happens when this being comes down, smashes down, and half the people think he's the Messiah and the other half doesn't. It creates a big holy war. So it's a story
of my life.
It's a story about story about Earth in another planet.
Yeah, but to recap,
and this is Diwata Comics.
So it's Surreal Art Studios and Diwata Comics. Okay. So I think if anything, once again, right back to the comic conventions, we'll be at San Diego Comic-Con, where Kino will be debuting the full version of Mod Squad, and plus for us, we'll have our new Icons anthology.
And we'll have a table there, and you'll be able to come over and visit us. And we're also going to be on a couple of panels over there, discussing things. So it'll be fun.
I should be there too. Actually, I'm going to be on a couple panels out there. I don't know which ones yet. I actually need to get my room now that I think about it.
That would be good.
Oh yeah. I don't know yet. Well, speaking of conventions, I recently went to the ATX TV Festival in Austin, which, I've gone to South by Southwest every year for the past, 10, 15 years. But ATX TV Fest is focused, obviously, as the name implies, specifically on TV. But what's really neat to me is that while there were, actors and some episode premieres there, that kind of stuff, it's largely the behind the scenes stuff where fans can talk to the showrunner, to producers, the whys and hows of things. Like, for example, the very first thing I got to do there was the Vampire Lestat, where showrunner Roland Jones was like willing to talk with fans, not just on stage, but afterwards walked outside and talked with anybody who had questions for like an hour and a half on the street, on the sidewalk.
Wow.
It was kind of crazy, but we just
finished season 2. Can't wait for season 3.
Are you talking about Vampire Lestat?
Mm-hmm.
Wait, you finished the special effects of season 2 of Lestat?
No. I finished watching Lestat.
Oh, you're catching up. Okay.
I'm caught up.
I was like, wow, you're ahead. Yeah, we've been rewatching the previous. Well, it's kind of weird. Technically it's a new series, but it's also the next season, so it's both at the same time. But we've been kind of catching up while rewatching them all. But it's a lot of fun hearing how they'd be mixing in music, or they're making brand new music, making it sound like older, especially glam rock kind of stuff. I also, let's see, I got to do they had an I Love Lucy anniversary where they had a bunch of actors reading it, which was fun. But what I really enjoyed was the discussions of the topics. Like one of them was Bringing Sexy Back, which is about how there's an increase of like sex in movies, it's TV shows and streaming, but specifically stuff like Outlander to Heated Rivalry, where it's like a different, where sex is part of the storytelling, and it's often with a more female or queer audience in mind. And then the other thing, which was a really
Witches too, is an example of that.
Exactly. And then the other one was called Nuclear Renaissance on TV, and it was hosted by Christine Wormuth, who was in charge of the Army under Biden, and is now CEO of the Nuclear Threat Initiative. And I didn't even know this was a thing, but they work with TV shows and movies specifically to help get that message out there of like, nukes are bad, which,
that has to be remessaged, I guess.
Yes, apparently it does. The guy, I got to meet the director of The Day After. Kino, do you remember when that came out?
Yeah.
On TV? I was little and I remember
I was working on that stuff, digital domain and stuff like that. And I remember
I told you.
all the water sequences and the buildings and all different passes and stuff. Oh my God.
Wait, you mean The Day After Tomorrow?
Yeah.
Oh, I meant The Day After. It was the TV show. It was a TV movie from 1983. So The Day After, for those of you guys who don't know, it was...
Is that the one where they were in the hills and then they got radioactive over a time period?
Yes.
That movie was scary.
Okay, so it was a made-for-TV movie, and the director Nick Baer, he was saying like, I didn't expect anybody to watch it. He thought they wouldn't even air it, but apparently somebody pulled some strings and forced them to air it, and apparently it was the most watched TV movie ever up to that point.
Wow.
And Reagan actually cited it as a reason he signed the accords with Soviet Union of like, they did not want this to happen. And so
it was the only show that they ever showed where they showed the progression of months of people thinking they escaped the bomb, and they kept on going up higher up the mountain, and all of a sudden they're like 2 months later they start getting stomach cancer, they start falling apart internally, and it was like, oh my God, dude.
Wow, I must have watched this.
Yeah. It was on TV. It was crazy.
Wow.
I thought there was somebody big in it. I want to see Molly Ringwald, but I don't think it was her, but there was somebody big, some big actress in it too.
It was just this idea that a movie, even especially a movie where the director thought no one was going to end up watching it.
John Lithgow's in it,
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
that it could change the world. And the whole discussion just kind of blew my mind. Is that something that movies can do today? Movies and TV shows, can we change minds like that?
I mean, I think so. I think you almost discount the fact that these are widely accessed by millions and millions of people. So I think with the right message, it can certainly affect how people think and feel.
I think we prevented Planet of the Apes.
True. Well, so far. Timeline is getting pushed
That
back.
was such a big fear that now we're going somewhere else.
Yeah.
We're going I think it's going towards, the EMP bomb,
Which we also discussed at that panel.
Yeah, which is like, the new dark ages will be the end of technology. You wipe out technology, 2/3 of the population will go out because they don't know how to feed themselves, they don't know how to get medical, and so on. And then all of a sudden, information, everything. That's the one I think.
We were just having a conversation. I'd be a great warlord.
I'd be leader of
Are
the
we talking
Northern
like
Tribe.
Mad Max style? All the Metal Gear?
Leader of the Northern Tribe, I'd be.
I'm not sure yet. I haven't decided. Or maybe I'll be a cult leader.
Ooh.
Well, sorry, when you say cult leader, my brain went to a different nuclear thing. I don't know if you guys have heard about this. I've known about it for a while, but every once in a while it comes back into the viral cycle. That is, in the 80s, they brought together a bunch of scientists, philosophers, and sci-fi people and said, how can we tell future generations to avoid nuclear waste areas if they don't speak English? And they were trying to find ways that would like pass down the timeline. And one of the best solutions they came up with was, let's start a cult. And this way that even if languages changes, the cult will still know those are the forbidden areas. They won't know why. Anyway, sorry.
I remember cult in Planet of the Apes, the cult of the bomb, Omega,
exactly.
Alpha Omega cult.
All the
people with the veiny fat mask, and they worship the ultimate bomb. It's like, oh my God.
Man, I love all those movies. Which is fun when we talk about the silly stuff, But the people that were there, the people who make like the Paradise TV show.
Oh yeah, I like that show.
I'm trying to remember some of the other shows that they were there. There were people that were on stage talking about it, and they were talking about real stuff. Like we're talking about the EMP weapon, which some people say exists, some people say doesn't, which basically would just deactivate. I think the way they worded it was technology after every technology after a certain point where technology starts being reliant on certain methods of getting electricity across, which is like from the 70s onward, something like that. And then the other big one is the Poseidon torpedo, which they were talking about like they had to verify it was real. But I remember when Putin announced this, they have that Russia has a torpedo that could take out like a whole coastal state, essentially.
Wow.
And it is not detectable. So with that happy conversation, can we use these movies to change minds? You know?
Oh, I think so, and I think comic books too, because my comic book is about, my comic book is about the world failing because they got into DNA wars. So there became something called DNA wars, and then all of a sudden, the DNA aftermath of the missiles start changing and mutating everything around. So I was like, okay, maybe this will tell, a future where there'll be no mutations of DNA wars. And I think that's what all books are too. And movies are like warnings of possible realities.
Exactly that. Mark,
I know when I watch things. Sorry.
No, go ahead. Oh yeah.
No, yeah. When I watch things like lately, I've been watching the Testaments, and it's one of those things where I'm like, wow, if only like we could show this to a certain amount of people, take notes, because I don't know, seems a little bit tomorrow-ish. Yeah.
Prophetic. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was just gonna say, Mark, we're talking about comics and movies. Could you imagine comics being turned into movies, or vice versa?
I mean, I feel like that's our entire career and existence, right?
Yeah, that's our goal.
Yeah.
I'm trying to push Mod Squad at the same time I'm doing a comic book, I'm also designing 2 games on it and pushing it as a Japanese anime, writing a book, and possibly TV show or movie. It's like all of us want to, Mark too has something in paper so he can convince others that this is cool enough to come to real life.
Proof of concept.
And I think to come to that, right, it's like Kino has an Unreal version of Mod Squad already circulating online. And for me, I have a live action version that's been seen at the various conventions. I'm not ready to put it out in general public yet, but we have been showing it at different conventions.
Are you going to show it in San Diego?
Yeah, most likely.
And then I know you met with Red 5, the publisher, put out a book.
Oh yeah, Afterburn. Speaking of post-apocalyptic, right? So I think the story for Afterburn is, well, all technology failed and the world is plunged into the dark ages. Yeah.
Red 5 Comics. And then you did remind me, was that a movie based on the comic or vice versa?
It is a movie based on the comic starring Samuel L. Jackson and Dave Bautista. Eliamaria, just as an interesting side note, what ended up happening was when we were at Comic Palooza, somebody who came to our booth who was interested in the Visual Effects Society was carrying a poster for that particular movie. And I was like, why do you have that? And then they go like, the creator's over there. I'm like, what? Because I'm like, I executive produced that with a company in Hungary where it was, because it was shot in Eastern Europe. I forget the exact locations, but a company in Hungary that I worked with happened to be one of the vendors who did the visual effects, and I was the executive producer and visual effects supervisor. So it was just like mind blown. Like you just never know where people are going to show up and where you get to collaborate.
See, that's the thing. When you guys are involved with everything, there's always going to be somebody there.
Oh, very likely, yeah.
Well, before we wrap this up, I kind of wanted to talk to you guys about movies. Before we started recording, we started chatting about some movies we've either seen recently or in the past. I know, Kino, you said you showed Mark the Blade Runner, but then you and I started chatting about Rock and Rule, which I think Mark and Eliamaria, neither of you had heard of before, neither had seen before.
Nope.
Mark, how would you describe that cartoon?
I mean, it looks like Rescuers Down Under.
Kino, what is it?
What was that called? It's not motion capture.
It was rotoscope. They had a lot of rotoscope.
That was like the start of rotoscoping movies too.
Oh, really?
Because before that,
really taking off in the
because the
Fire and Ice and stuff.
The Fire and Ice, #1 rotoscoping movie that with Ralph Bakshi backgrounds and all types of stuff. Yeah. And so that that was before 3D models.
Yeah.
So they were like, okay, how can we make this look 3D, still 2D? So that was the evolution of 2D.
It is such an interesting movie. Apparently it started off at one point, it was going to be like a kids movie with like talking mice, and then it evolved into an adults only movie that was about like humanoids in the apocalypse, and then they tried to like split the difference and make it like, well, it's going to be a little bit of both, and it's
humanoids in the apocalypse, all from mutations of DNA stuff,
which happens,
so only animal humanoids exist. No humans really exist.
But the music, Debbie Harry,
right.
Earth, Wind and Fire, Iggy Pop, like,
and they made all the music. The musicians made all the music for that movie.
That album is released.
Oh.
It's so good.
Yeah,
it is so good. Like the movie's interesting, but like the music is genius.
Yeah.
It's free on Tubi right now, by the way.
I feel like same thing with The Day After. It's on YouTube.
Yeah. Which is something we need to. You know what's funny is I saw that when I was a toddler, I guess, but like I remembered it because it's that kind of movie. And I would tell other kids about it. They were like, "No, that never happened. That's not a real thing." Because again, before Google, you know.
Yeah.
Adults knew it. How about you guys? Any like cult classic movies that you think people should check out? Whether it's so bad it's good or just interesting.
Well, I was just talking to somebody earlier. Maybe Kino said that. I keep on interrupting.
Well, the thing is, I always run my, have you seen Mad Max, Legend, Ultron, Blade Runner?
Wait, Ultron?
The Tron one, first Tron.
Oh, Tron, the old Tron. Okay.
Yeah. And then I'm always thinking of Fantastic Planet, the animation. A lot of people do not know that.
Yeah, that's actually, it's French, right?
Yep.
I've been showing a lot of these to my partner recently, and next on the list is Legend. Literally a friend of hers was like, "Yeah, you got to see this. Tom Cruise is like showing everything off. When
he's an elf.
Yeah, it's something else
like that. Yeah,
and it's the sexiest version of Tim Curry that has ever been.
Yeah. Have you seen? You guys, have you seen Legend?
No.
You need to check that out.
It's before Lord of the Rings movies.
Yep.
But it's when they first started doing orcs and little goblins and like trolls.
It's like Star Wars came out, and the movie companies are like, we need something similar, and they're like, what about sword and sorcery? And it was just weird.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, there's so many old stuff that's cool. Space Hunter, all that kind of stuff. It's like,
so you see Fantastic Planet, Eliamaria?
Yeah, I'm looking at the art right now, and I'm sold. I have to see.
Yeah, and that is what it looks like in motion. That's what it looks like in motion too.
That's amazing.
Like, when I say motion, it's very limited frame rate, but like it's still there, you know.
Yeah, it's generally, and the story is incredible.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, how many people are Never-Ending Story fans?
Of course.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
I would not want them to remake that. Like leave it.
I do, but for a weird reason. Let me explain. Let me explain. Because I look at that movie. Did you see the movie The Fall?
Yes.
Yeah, the one with I can't remember Tarzan.
The guy who did The Cell.
Yes, Tarzan. So in The Fall, you have this guy. It takes place in the early 1900s, and this guy is telling stories because he grew up reading Old West novels, right? And the little girl listening to it, she grew up in Eastern Asia. So everything he says, she's visualizing through her lens. So when he says the Indian, and he's talking about Native American, she's visualizing a sick person. And so it's like, it's really, really visually cool. The way I would want to see the Never-Ending Story done is have somebody from a different culture pick it up.
Okay.
And all of the stuff they visualize would look not at all like think about the Luck Dragon. Every culture would see that entirely differently. You know what I mean?
We'd call it something else.
Well, yeah, obviously, but I mean, I do kind of like the idea of like taking something and then like remaking it every so many years, but from a different point of view. You know what I mean? Like do something. You can't just remake it shot for shot. You can't do that Psycho thing. Just remake it.
Yeah.
I got a weird one. I don't think any of you have watched. I'm going to take a guess on this one. We recently got the Criterion streaming service.
Yeah.
And there's a 1963 Czechoslovak movie.
Okay.
Called Ikari XB1. Ikarie XB1. IE. And it's basically this is the movie that Stanley Kubrick says inspired him to make 2001.
Yeah, I thought you were going to say the Solaris guy.
Well, that one too. But the thing is that like there's scenes in this that are 100% like Stanley Kubrick just did that with a better budget.
Yeah.
Like again, not story. Story is also very good, but like visuals. There are visuals in this that are like, I can't believe they put that much thought into this with like the budget of $10. You know. Like
did you ever see The Dark Backward with Judd Nelson?
Oh, I'm not.
And basically, it's a world that is surrounded by pork. So everything is made of pork: toothpaste, hairbrush, everything's made of pork. And the thing is, he's
Pork, as in Pork?
yeah, as in POR.
I need to watch this.
And so
I'm looking this up.
he's a comedian that nobody and James Caan's in it, everybody, Bill Paxton. So
Oh my
he's a
gosh.
guy that grows an arm out of his back, and now he's super funny. And all of a sudden, he doesn't want to be a freak, so he gets the arm kind of like cut off, but then he loses his powers of comedic, and it is a crazy, dark, weird visual movie. It's like one of those movies like City of Lost Children type movie. You guys see that, right?
Well, the way you're describing it is making me think of Freaked,
No, yeah.
the Alex Winter movie that Keanu Reeves is secretly in but uncredited. Yeah, he made it right after Bill and Ted, and he asked Keanu if he'd be in it, and he is, and he's in full makeup, so you can't tell it's him, and he's not in the credits either, so it's kind of funny. It is a very disturbingly weird movie.
Yeah, Rob Lowe's in it. It's an Adam Rifkin movie.
Oh, I thought. Wait, which one are you talking about?
The Dark Backward.
Oh, Dark Backward. Okay, yeah.
I was trying to see the director's name.
I need to take a look at that one.
Yep.
All right, I'm enjoying this like weird movie. Like making a list now of things we need to watch.
Yeah, I have all these tabs
Well,
open now.
you know, a really cool movie that is fun for world building and weird to me that I watched recently is a movie called Vesper. Have you guys seen that?
Actually, you know, that was on my watch list for a while now. I just haven't gotten to it.
That movie's strange.
which
That's
one is
cool.
that?
That's a good movie to watch. Vesper. Vesper.
Sounds familiar.
Yep.
I mean, obviously it's a word. 2022.
Yep.
Yes, it's really
I
recent.
definitely have not seen it. No, definitely not seen that. Interesting. You know what that makes me think of? Actually, as I'm thinking about movies that kind of threw under the radar, I kind of liked Skyline, if I remember correctly.
I was the art director of Skyline. I designed
there you
all the
go.
creatures and all that kind of stuff.
There were two movies that came out around the same time. It was Skyline, and I don't remember what the other one was.
He was on
Battle of
both.
LA.
He was on
Battle
both.
of
On
LA.
that one too. And we
Yeah.
had to go to court and all that kind of stuff.
I
for it.
remember that there was a fight because I think one of the guys, I don't know if it was a producer or writer, jumped over.
Well, what happened was that they did a bunch of designs for Battle of LA, and then Battle of LA picked only a certain look of stuff. So there was a lot of stuff that was just left over. So they thought that we used that stuff for the Skyline stuff, and we didn't because I designed both of the shows. Me, like Battle of LA was me and this other artist called Paul Jarrett, and then Skyline was just me. And
I think Skyline was the lower budget one, if I remember correctly.
yeah, Skyline was a lower budget one.
I
And
think
we
I like
made
that one better.
sure that all the designs were completely different. And we won and everything. And it was, but they just wanted to like see if they can get more money out of VFX because they didn't have enough budget. And they wanted to make, you know, Battle of LA was such a heavy hit on budget and pricing and everything. And all the stuff that they were trying to do was kind of out there. So,
Tino, are you allowed to talk about that?
Mark,
Tino, are you allowed?
Yeah,
Are you
cut that up?
Are you allowed to talk about that?
Yeah. I mean,
Okay.
it's,
Yeah, I
a
mean,
bad
it's
thing.
public. If it's in the court, it's public record already. So
Yeah, it's in the past, and I mean, I've been in a bunch of weird kind of like stuff like that, but that's just common in the industry, you know.
Well, with all that in mind, real quick, anything you guys are looking forward to, movies or TV, especially if it's something that you've not been involved with?
I am watching He-Man on Thursday. First thing.
I will see it. I
Yeah.
will. I'm so behind right now in movies, but I will see it. Eliamaria, anything you're looking forward to?
Yeah, He-Man. I want to see it. I'm really excited for it. I don't know if I'll be there opening day, but yeah.
I'm not sure if I'm cosplaying it. I'm not ready for that.
Okay. I
mean-
need. Man, I want to be. I can't. What's his battering ram guy? What's his name? I can't remember his name right now.
Man at Arms?
No, not Man at Arms. The guy who's like Juggernaut but squat.
Oh, no.
Shoot. I
Elder Silvo. I mean,
That's gonna be
Yeah.
great.
What's his name? Ram
yeah,
Man.
the only things
Yeah,
I'm
Ram Man.
not wanting to see is stuff that's only in even pre-production, you know. So it's like, you know, I've been waiting for a Judge Dredd thing to come out forever.
Aren't we all?
Yes.
The last one was good. All right. With all that said, I think we should call it a night. We can get some sleep, and everybody here can listen in to the next episode of my Primos podcast. But in the meantime, Kino, how can people find you online? Like website or social medias or whatever you want.
They can go to my website, Kino Scialbba Art Station. Just look for my name on Art Station.
And that Scialabba
then-
is SCIA.
yeah, if you type in my name, you'll find ArtStation stuff and you'll find LinkedIn and Instagram stuff. So,
all right, Mark, how do we find you online?
I'm very easily Googleable. Just Google my name, but otherwise, you can find me at MarkFX411.
I am so jealous of both you guys. I hate that I type in my name. I am not in the top hits. I need to fix that.
There's two of me, and one is a doctor from Kentucky, and I'm pretty sure that's not me.
Well, I was going to say, you are Mark AJ.
Correct. But when
Yeah,
you put that, I'm the only person as far as I'm concerned.
But is that one of those like well, I guess not Screen Actor, but is that one of those like guild things where you have to have that on for?
Oh no, I mean, if you really want to go there, think our Spanish roots. It's Mark Anthony Jimenez. Is all.
yeah.
All right.
So
And if you want to go where my Spanish roots, my name is Joaquin Joseph Scialabba Scoro del Quelcado.
Wow.
you win.
See, open with that.
De Quelcado, Kino for short.
Dang, man. Again, another reason I don't like my name. I got such a boring.
Are you just Kevin Garcia?
You know what? I didn't
Well,
like
Kevin,
my name.
I have a middle name too, but the thing is, like, you can't get any whiter than Kevin.
No.
And Garcia is the most common Spanish last name.
But what's your name?
I was the same way. I didn't like my name. My brother's name is Jimmy, and my sister's Jenny. So it's like I got Joaquin because of my grandfather. Okay, I get it. But Kino is short from it, and I'm like, and then when our middle name is Joe, so my sister is Jenny Joe, which sounds like person from the South, or Jimmy Joe, James Joe, and then you got Joaquin Joseph. Like, where did we adopt this one from?
You see, that's what I am in my family. I'm the odd one out. I'm the one who can't translate the name. Eliamaria, how can we find you online?
With a magnifying glass. No,
Fair
I'm just
enough.
kidding. I spice illustrations on all social media.
Yeah. And I'm Kevin Garcia. Look, as much as I hate the name, I've owned it now. So I own KevinGarcia.com. I've owned it for since the 90s.
Wow.
Yeah, all the
.com is actually part of your name now.
all the other Kevin Garcias can suck it. All right. I have KevinGarcia.com. I've had it since the 90s. And on socials, I'm mostly Kevin Garcia_com because I was told I couldn't use a dot, although I've seen dots in online names now, so maybe I can change it. But of course, you are listening to my Primos podcast, which you can listen to at all the normal podcast places, which would be weird if you got to this point in the podcast and didn't know how to find us, but hopefully. And of course, we can be found online through socials at My Primos Podcast or at My Primos Productions. In the meantime, though, stay good. Remember, wherever you are, you're a primo. We're all family. And we're out.
Adios.
Entre espinar salta mi amor.